Okay, this video is on how to build a simple layout using the Flexbox property. Flexbox allows you to create more of a responsive website. A lot of the common frameworks like Bootstrap are now going to Flexbox for their properties. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if you can see here, I've already got a style sheet attached. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some boxes. So my cursor is right here. I'm going to hit the return key and I'm going to insert a div. And I'm going to call this div container and say OK. Now inside this div, or nested inside this div, I'm going to add some other ones. So I'm going to drive this end of this div down, and I'm also going to give it an HTML comment so I can always tell where the end of this is. So I'll go here and place end of container. Okay, got that. Now inside this div, nested inside, I'm going to add a navigation bar. So I'm going to go insert navigation, and just in case I have more than one navigation bar, I'm going to give this a class name and I'll call it main nav and say OK. After the nav tag here, I'm going to hit the return key again, and I'm still within the container div. I'm right here. I'm going to go insert header. Again, in case there was any reason I wanted to either add another header or format another header on a different page differently, I'm going to give this one a specific name and I'll call it main header and say OK. After the end of the header, I'm going to hit the return key again, and I'm going to, now what I'm going to do is add what's called a flex parent. So I'm going to go insert, and I'll call this parent section, and I'm going to call it flex parent. And this is going to control the flex items that I'm going to put in it. So I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to nest within the section flex children or flex items. In kind of the web world, they like to call them flex items. I think it's a little bit easier to understand if you call them children, and you'll see a little bit later why. So I'm going to go insert, and I'll do 3 articles. I'll do an article, and I'll call this child 1. Okay, and I want to add another one after this article, and I'm going to go insert article, and I'm going to call this one child 2. I'll do another one, so I have 3. I'm going to go insert article, and I'm going to call it child 3. Okay. To finish off my layout here, I'm going to add a footer, but I need to be outside the flex parent now. So after the flex parent, the section there, I'm going to hit the return key and go insert footer. And just to be consistent, I'll call it main footer. Okay, and say OK. Now let's look at the structure here. I've got this main container that's wrapping around everything that's inside, meaning the header, the footer, the section with the articles and the footer. So I've got the nav, I've got the header, and now I have a section that has these flex children nested inside. And then I have the footer, again, all wrapped in that container. All right, now what I want to do is add some styling. So I'm going to open up my CSS designer. I'm going to set up a selector for the container. And just to make it a little bit quicker and easier, I'm going to set up all the selectors and then I'm going to give them properties. So I'm going to click here for the main nav, add the selector. I'm going to click here, add the selector. I'm going to click here, add the selector, and the child 1, selector, child 2, selector, clicking here, child 3, selector, and then I'll do the footer. Okay, now I'll come back and I'll give them some formatting. Okay, I'm going to go to the container first, but I'm going to fix something in here. This will annoy me a little bit that I have a hyphen in there. So I'm going to get rid of that hyphen in there. We look in CSS, the hyphen's gone, but I also have to get rid of it here. Okay, now I'm just being a little bit more consistent. All right, I'm going to go to the container, and instead of a width, I'm going to give it a max width. Max width will allow it to actually shrink. It'll have a maximum width that I'll give it, but it'll also allow it to get smaller. And I'm going to give it a width, max width of 1000, just an easy number to put in there. Okay. All right, I've got that set, and I also will give it a background color of a gray. Notice that everything within that main container has inherited the gray. And I will let you know that I am in live view, so I'm going to flip back to design mode. Okay, just so you can see things a little bit better. All right. Again, I just changed it up here to design mode, although I will tell you with Flexbox, we do need to go back and forth between design and live mode. Some of the Flexbox properties cannot be seen in design mode. Okay, just with that note, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give these individual boxes color so you can see them. So I'm going to go to the main here, main nav, and I'll give it a color. And I'll just kind of go from top to bottom here. Red. I'm going to go to the header and I'll do a purple. I'm going to go to the flex parent and I'll do I already did purple. I'll do blue, and I will do the children individually. I will do child 2. Maybe a different color green. I'll do child 3. I will do the footer. Do gold. Okay. All right. I don't know if you noticed, but before I put colors on the children, they took on or inherited the blue background from their parent. Let me just show you that. Let me go to my CSS file. And if I comment these out, if I come in here and do 2 forward slashes on all these rules here, it comments them out, and notice they're blue. I'm going to set those rules back into play here, and that was just for demonstration purposes. All right, with my layout now I really don't need the text in the container. The only purpose of this container is to hold these other boxes. So I'm going to get rid of this text here. I'm in the source code, by the way, and I'm just going over here and I'm going to delete that placeholder content. Okay, it collapses. The only thing holding that open so you could see the gray was the text. It's still there wrapped around everything, but it's in the background now. Nothing breaks it open. I also really don't want the text for the parent. The parent is here to hold the children so they can inherit some properties. I'm going to get rid of that. All right, I do have some placeholder text that I'm going to add to these children here. So I have that on my desktop, just some dummy text that I have here, just right here. I'm just going to grab 2 paragraphs of text. And instead of this content for class child 1, I'm going to paste in my dummy text. I'll do the same thing here. And I will do the same thing here. All right, okay, a couple things I want you to notice about the layout right now. Now the children here are being given their height by the content. Also, these gaps here are based on the default margin that's given to a paragraph tag. So each of these have a paragraph tag here. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to add that universal selector that's going to zero them out here. And I've already gotten that on a document. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Okay, so it snaps, everything snaps back. Again, all I did was copy and paste this from another document I have open. So this is saying all the margins on all the elements should be 0 all the way around, and same with the padding. All right, just zeroing those out. Let's take a look at this website now in preview mode. All right, there it is. It's got a width of 1000, a maximum width, but what happens if I collapse the browser? Notice everything is wrapping now because of that maximum width, but maybe I want to have these children or these articles, when it's at its maximum width, to actually be in columns. So let's go ahead and tackle that. Okay, to do that, what I'm going to do is give the Flex parent a new property. Unfortunately, it's a display property. So if you go into display here, the property I'm looking for is not listed. Right now, Dreamweaver does not have that added here. I'm hoping with the newest version of Dreamweaver when it comes out, it will. At this point, it's not. So instead, what I'm going to do is go to More, and I'm going to add my own. So I'm going to click here. The property I want is display. It actually pops open right here. I'm going to click on it. And what I want is Flex. All right, let's go ahead and preview in the web, see what happened. Okay, if I close this down, it is now in column mode. But what if I actually want these to, once I get to a smaller size, to be underneath each other? I'm going to add another property for that. Close this. Okay, back in the Flex parent here, I'm going to add another property under More. And I'm going to add Flex Wrap. And I want it to wrap. Okay, so if I look in my CSS file, I can see the parent container has a background color, and it also has a display property of Flex and a Flex Wrap property of Wrap. Let me go ahead and preview in the web and see what happened. Okay, it is wrapping like before, but now I lost the columns. So in order to fix that, what I'm going to do is give each of these children a width. Okay, I am in the selector for child 1. I'm not going to do a max width, but rather a regular width. So I'm going to click here in pixels, and keep in mind the overall size of this container is 1000. So I need all these children to fit in within 1000. So 1000 divided by 3 is 3333. But just to make a round number, I'm going to make the width of each of these 300. Okay, I'm going to do child number 2, a width of 300. And child 3, a width of 300. Okay, let me go ahead and preview in the web. Keep in mind, in design mode, you're not going to see the Flexbox properties, at least in this version of Dreamweaver. So I'm going to go down to preview here in Safari, and yes, and if I collapse it, you can see that it is now collapsing. Okay, and these are wrapping now. What I also could do is I could change how these are laid out. Right now, each of these children are just 300 in width, but I've got a gap here, and I could lay these out differently. Also, when you add the flex properties to that parent, all the children are actually going to have the same height based on the content, the larger amount of content. What do I mean by that? Let me go back to Dreamweaver, and I'm going to copy more text in here. I'm going to grab this line of text here, and right after mad here, I'm going to paste. Let me preview in the web again. Okay, now each of these children are taking on the height of the larger one. All right, there are some other properties that you can add to change kind of the layout a little bit. Let me go back to here, and I'm going to do this to the Flex parent, and I'm going to add another one under more. This property is called justifyContent. It's right here. I just typed in the J and this popped up, and you could do start. Start is the default. If I select end, you're going to see the difference. But before I do that, let me actually flip to live mode. You'll see it a little bit better here. Okay, so back to more here. Justify content. Start is the default. Justify content, flex end. It actually shoves everything to the end of the container. Another one I can choose, let me delete that one. Justify content. I could do center. It centers all these elements. Another one I could do, delete that one. Justify content, and I could do space in between. You can see how that takes effect. The last one here, justify content, space around. It's a little bit similar than the other one. I'll leave space around on it, and let's preview on the web again. And that's justify content, space around. Okay, so if I look at the CSS rules here, so for the Flex parent, I did a background color, I did a display of Flex, a Flex wrap property of wrap, justify content. I could definitely change this around. I did the children, I did a background color, a width. Again, the height is dependent on the content, and I did the same for them all. I gave them all the same width. I definitely could change that if I wanted to. Also, by the way, you can type this code right here in the CSS file, meaning I could get rid of this and I could type out justify content, and I could get those same values here. Maybe I want to do space around this time. But you do need to remember to do the semicolon to end that property. Or I could change it to space in between, semicolon. It's all what you want it to be. Okay, I think I'll make this layout look a little bit more like a website. I think part of what's throwing it off right now definitely is the color scheme. So I'm going to go ahead and change some of those colors. I'm going to get rid of that dark blue on the parent, and I will click here and I will change it to maybe a light yellow. I'm going to grab that hexadecimal number because I'm going to use it again, so I'm going to copy it, hit the return key. I'm also going to add that same background color to these children, so I'm going to go to the child here. Instead of that Instead of that hexadecimal number, I'm going to paste the one that I copied from the parent. I'm going to do the same here. Paste. Do the same on this one. Paste. All right, I'm also going to center the layout. So I'm going to go to the container to do that. And I am going to go to the layout properties and I'm going to set the margin left and right to auto. Okay, now it's centered. I do need to make sure that I have plenty of padding on the edges here. So I'm going to go to the first child here and I'm going to put in, maybe I'll do 15 all the way around. So I'm going to type in 15. Click in the middle to make all of them. And keep in mind, when I originally set this up, the whole parent, or I'm sorry, not the parent, but the whole container was 1000. I made each of these 300. So 300 per 300 is 900. So I have, as far as the box model goes, I've got 100 pixels to play with before I start running out of room. All right, so I'll do 15 on the second. Oops, I meant to do that all the way around. Same on the third child, all the way around. Okay. Now what I want to do is make sure that I have some H1s in here for these articles about cats. So I'm going to do that in design mode. It's really hard to type in live mode. Again, you cannot see the Flexbox properties here in design mode, and I already have some text I'm going to add in just a simple text document. So I'm going to copy that first line. I'm going to put it right here, hit the return key, put my cursor right here and paste. I'm going to do the same for the next bit of text I have. Here, hit the return key. I've got one more line of text I'm going to copy and paste in there. Okay, it looks like I'm missing something here. So I'm going to go back and see what I did. Paste. Looks like I'm missing one of those sides of the padding. So let me go back to the CSS Designer, see where that problem happened. I thought I put it in here. For whatever reason, it did not take. So I'm going to 15 and pixels and click. All right. All right, there we go. I'm going to make each of these a H2. Fun facts in the format area of the property palette. Same thing here with cats and humans. H2. Older cats. H2. Don't forget we have that universal selector in here. So all the default margins and paddings are now missing from both the paragraphs and the H tags. All right, let me go ahead and set some of those up. So I'm going to put my cursor right here in an H tag and I'm going to add one. And I don't want just the second child to be targeted. I want all the H tags that are in all the children. So I'm going to get rid of this specific class. So I want all H2s that are in that Flex parent to have the same property. And what I want is maybe some padding below it. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the P's, the P tags. I'm going to add the selector. Again, I don't want the child because I want them all to be formatted the same, all the paragraphs in all the children. And I will add padding below. Let me see what it looks like now in live mode. Okay. think I'll get rid of some of this text. It looks kind of awkward. So I'm going to go back to design mode and just get rid of one of these lines in here. Okay. All right, what I'm going to do is add one of the navigation bars that have been downloaded from Canvas. I'm going to open one of those. So I'm going to go File, Open. They're already on my desktop of my computer. My desktop, navigation bars. This first one's a really good one. So I'm going to open this one up, and I am going to go to Split. I am going to copy the HTML, start of navigation to end of navigation. I'm going to go Edit, Copy, flip back to my layout, and go back to Split View, go into my source code, and instead of this navigation, I'm going to paste the navigation I just copied. So I'm going to get rid of that, give myself some room in code by hitting the return key, and I'm going to paste. Okay, I've got that unordered list in here that have pseudo links in here, and again, they're all based on an unordered list and list items that have a pseudo link. I'm going to go to the styles, and I'm going to copy them. Make sure that you don't pick up the style tag, and I'm going to go Edit, Copy, flip back. I'm going to go to my style sheet for this layout, and I'm going to go to the end here after the end of that last curly bracket and paste. All right, let me see what it looks like in live mode. All right. Okay, so I've got 4 links up here in my nav bar. What if I wanted 5? To do that, I'm just going to copy code here. I'm going to copy this line of text here, this list item. I'm going to go Edit, Copy. After the end of that list item, I'm going to paste and paste that code. All right, so now I could change this to, I don't know, jobs, jobs with cats. All right, let's go ahead and preview in the web. All right, I don't want to change the color, and maybe I want to add an image here. Let's see if it's still flexing. It is. Now the problem is going to be to get an image to flex. Okay, so that's going to be a challenge. Okay, I'm going to go back to design mode. And instead of having this text in here, I'm going to put an image. So I'm going to get rid of the text, and I'm going to do this in code view. I just find it a little bit easier. So in the header here, I'm going to go Insert Image, and I'm going to look for an image that's already 1000. So I'm going to go Insert Image, and I believe I have one in my folder. That's not, this one is. Okay, I'm going to open it. All right, let's go ahead and preview on the web, see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and see if it flexes. It does not flex. So we have to give this a property. I want to make it a responsive image, so I'm going to set up a class for that. So I am going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it responsive. And what I'm going to do is tell the width to be 100%, and I'm going to tell the height to be auto. Clicking here, and I'm going to select auto. So now that I have the width at 100% and the height at auto, I need to apply that class to this image, and before I do that, I'm going to get rid of the width and height. Right here where it says width 1000, height 300, I'm going to get rid of that code, delete it. Now what I'm going to do is go to the property palette, select the image, and where it says class here, I'm going to pick up responsive. And what that does, it adds the class to that image. And I'm going to go ahead and preview in the web, save, yes, and now that image is responsive. Okay, I've got a couple cat images. I'm going to flip to live view, and what I'm going to do is maybe I'll put a cat image below these H1s. And again, I'm going to do it in design view. It's a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to go to the paragraph and find that they're H2s, fun cat facts. I'm going to hit the return key so my cursor's in the right spot right here, and I'm going to go insert image. I'm going to look for the image. I've got 3 of them at the same size. I made them in Photoshop or cropped them at 300 by 300 and open it. I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. Scrolling down, here's that next H2. I'm going to hit the return key after it. I'm going to go insert image, pick up that second cat image. I'm going to do the same thing for that last one, older cat. So I'm going to put my cursor after the H2, hit the return key, insert image, and pick up that third cat image. All right, let me go ahead and preview on the web, save. All right, let me go ahead and collapse it. Okay, these don't have to be responsive because the browser's never going to get any smaller than that. I'm not real happy with maybe where I placed it, but you get the point. If I want to do something with the background, keep in mind that that is the body tag, so that'll be the last thing that I do. Okay, CSS Designer. I'm going to set up a selector for the body, B-O-D-Y, body, and I'll go to the background properties, and maybe I'll pick up a color from one of these cats, maybe this cat. I'm going to click on the background, the color chip here. I'm going to grab the eyedropper, and I'll just, for the sake of time, I'm just going to grab this one, hit the return key. All right, let's go ahead and preview on the web once again. All right, I do want to change, well, it looks like I need to get rid of that background color here. So let me get rid of that background color on that header tag. The header, I'm going to delete that so that disappears. And I'm going to change the navigation, the color of it. So let me go to that. I'm going to click here, change the color. I'm going to make it a brown too, maybe a darker brown. Okay. And I definitely could change the hover as well, but you get the point. There's another thing I want to mention before I finalize this. If I want to use this page as a basis for my next page, keep in mind that these are classes. Anywhere it's going to find the class, those same values and properties are going to be applied. So if you want to make the layout different, you're going to have to change the class names. So let me just show you an example. So I'm going to take this page and I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to change the name to P2 for page 2 and save. Now, if I open up the CSS Designer and I go to this child and I make it 100. If I flip back to my other page, it has also changed, okay? You don't want that to happen. At least I imagine so. Let me take it back to 300. So instead what I'm going to do is on the second page, I'm going to change the class name so I can set up specific styles for them. So this is the section that these articles live in. Okay, let's see, the end of it's here. So I'm going to make this one, where did it go? Up here. I'm going to make it Flex Parent Pages maybe. And I'm going to change it to child -2 and child -2, child child 3-2. Now all the properties were lost, so I would have to make up new selectors for these new classes. Okay, because right now they're following along with these ones. For instance, let me go ahead and find the parent here. I'd have to add a new selector and make changes with the new name. Again, I'd need to target this one, not them all. So if I want specific change, I need to make sure that the class names are also different on other pages.